Hey church, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Michael. So I'm going to be reading the Bible for us tonight. So the Bible reading is from Mark 15 verse 40 to 16 verse 8. So if you have your Bible with you, I'll give you a second to open up to there. Some women were watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the younger, and of Joseph, and Salome. In Galilee, these women had followed him and cared for his needs. Many other women had come up with him to Jerusalem, were also there. It was preparation day, that is, the day before the Sabbath. So as evening approached, Joseph of Arimathea, a prominent member of the council, who was himself waiting for the kingdom of God, went boldly to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Pilate was surprised to hear that he was already dead. Summoning the centurion, he asked him if Jesus had already died. When he learned from the centurion that it was so, he gave the body to Joseph. So Joseph bought some linen cloth, took down the body, wrapped it in the linen, and placed it in a tomb cut out of rock. Then he rolled a stone against the entrance of the tomb. Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of Joseph saw where he was laid. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome bought spices so they might go to anoint Jesus' body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb, and they asked each other, "Who will roll the stone away from the entrance of the tomb?" But when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. "Don't be alarmed," he said. "You are looking for Jesus the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen, he is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." Trembling and bewildered, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. This is the word of the Lord.
And thanks be to Michael for reading for us as well. So I thought tonight we might start with a little bit of a group survey. Can we get everyone to stand up? Like Julianne set a theme where we're just standing for stuff tonight. You just stand. Now, here's what I want you to do. When you go to the movies, I never go to the movies, but sometimes. When you go to the movies, I mean the cinema, and you watch a movie, if you are someone who, as soon as the movie ends and the credit starts rolling, you stay standing. If you're someone who you stay seated at the movies when the credits start rolling and you wait to hear all the songs and see all the credits and you leave at the very end, you can sit down. Okay. Wow, I didn't expect that. I expected to see tons more of you standing. Those of you who are standing, if you were to keep your normal practice, you can pretty much leave now. Because I've got to tell you something. The formal part of the movie, that is Mark's biography or Gospel of Jesus, actually ended on Friday. I'll show you. Have a seat, everybody. I'm going to teach you a new way to watch movies. And stick around. Because what happens, and my earliest memory of this happening, is with the classic that will remain a classic and an instructional video for how everyone should go to school, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. If you watch through that, you'll see Ferris reappears after the credits and says, "That's it, the movie's over, you can go home." More recently, I think a lot of the Marvel movies do this. The movie kind of happens, credits roll, and then there's like a little movie afterwards. I think in the world of books, this is called an epilogue. I'm going to call it that Marvel bit. What we've got tonight in Mark's Gospel, as I understand it, is the Marvel bit. This is the bit where characters from the actual movie, we kind of sit with them a little bit. They've been in the movie, and they kind of reflect upon the movie and start to talk and think about what next because of the movie, just like in Marvel. Let me try and show you what I mean. Have a look at this slide. When Mark writes his gospel, and this guy's name is John Mark, and he writes this gospel. A gospel is, for one of a whole bunch of explanations, it's a biography of Jesus' life. And he writes for a reason. He can't tell us everything Jesus did. He can't tell us everything Jesus said. But he tells us the bits that he thinks are really important. He says, So verse 1, chapter 1, that's the beginning. If you're new to the Bible, you probably worked that out, but that's the very beginning. The beginning of the good news about Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God. He is writing, this is his purpose statement, to tell you the good news about a guy called Jesus, who is the Messiah, the anointed one of God, the chosen one, the Son of God. When you get to what we read in this room on Good Friday at the crucifixion of Jesus, we read, and when the centurion, this is a captain of 100 soldiers, when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus, who's been crucified on a cross, saw how he died, he said, surely this man was the Son of God. If this was a movie right now, you're meant to play the theme music. So if it was Top Gun, it goes... I need to see newer movies. I sound like Ian Barnett, who's always talking about million-year-old movies. Except for this morning, he did Avengers at 8 a.m. and I was like, wow, we've switched. Anyway, hold on, other thing. Surely this man is the Son of God. Credits roll, movie's over. Because what Mark has wanted to do is he's wanted to tell the biography, the great news of this guy Jesus, who is the Son of God. He's got a subpart to his story. What he's trying to do in his movie or in his story is tell you about who this man is. He's the Son of God. And what he's come to do. What he's come to do happens in this final scene. He's come to give his life as a ransom for many. And that many includes me and it includes you. Movie over as the centurion, this guy who, at the beginning of the gospel would be sort of one who you wouldn't pick as the guy to make this sort of a declaration. He now gets it. Story done. Surely this was the Son of God. You see how it bookends beautifully there? That's the story. Credits roll, theme music plays, and then this happens. After the screen has gone dark and there have been credits, light reappears. Can you see what I'm trying to do here? In the movie world, this is what's going on in Mark's Gospel. Isn't the Bible amazing how it creates these sorts of themes that we still use in movies today? Light dawns again and we see, with different music, there are some women. And they're watching from a distance. This is the Marvel moment. This is the epilogue. This is where characters from the story who have been part of the story now sort of watch the story and are going to respond to the story and lead us in the what next. Some women were watching from a distance. Again, I hope the movie imagery is helpful because the distance idea is widescreen. They see the whole thing play out. They see how Jesus was treated. They see how he's put to death. They see how he breathes his life, how he dies, and how a centurion declares him Son of God. They are named specifically, and in this chapter, you might have noticed they get named specifically, not the women, but Mary. They keep being named. Mark really wants us to pay attention to these Marvel moment characters. But not only did they watch from a distance, we're reminded here that in Galilee, verse 41, these women had followed him and cared for his needs. What we are to understand is these women have a comprehensive view of everything that has happened. They've watched at a distance, and at the same time, they've watched up close. They've seen the life of Jesus, the one who Mark wanted us to understand is the Son of God, the one who has come to give his life for many. And what have they seen? Well, if you read through Mark, pretty much everything you see is what they've seen. They've seen the amazing teaching, the one who taught like one with authority and had an understanding no one had seen before. They see the one who is able to perform these incredible miracles that seem to reinforce and back up that he's not just making up stories, he tells the truth. They see the one who does the healings. They see the one who does the amazing teaching. They see the one with the heart of compassion. And they see the one who has the stomach for the conflict. They've watched him go eyeball to eyeball, toe to toe with some of the religious black belts who challenge him and who threaten him. And they've seen his great argument. They've seen the pressure of the conflict. And they've seen the wonder of the compassionate heart. They've seen a beautiful picture of Jesus. And now in this Marvel moment, we're going to see how they react to the Jesus that they have known and seen, who has just now been put to death. They've seen these things. So what do they now expect? Let's go forward on the slides. Thanks, Ruth. Well, when the Sabbath was over, so this is when Saturday was over, met the two Marys and Salome. They brought spices so they might go and anoint Jesus' body. This tells us a great deal about what they expect. See, they viewed the whole thing at a distance. They've seen where they laid him. They've seen where they put him to death. And now they expect to do what they've always done. What they've always done is cared for Jesus' needs since they followed him from Galilee. And now they're going to do what is done for the needs of a dead Jew. Jews had a few different ways of burying their relatives. One of the ways had a double stage. What they would do is they would take the body, and it seems to me this might have been what was going on for Jesus, and they lay the body. They don't put it in the box. We put people in a box. They don't. They start by laying the body out either on a slab or on top of the box. We call boxes caskets. We used to call them coffins. They call them a sarcophagus. I suspect that's where we get the word coffin from. Sarcophagus literally means flesh eater. The idea of their two-stage burial is you lay the body out on top of the sarcophagus and you allow it to rot. You allow the flesh to rot away or to be eaten. Once that has happened, you then take the bones, you gather the bones, and the bones are put in the box. And sometimes what would happen is for generations, we would do that in our family and all our bones would be gathered together in the box once the flesh has gone away. So I suspect what is happening here is these women think that they are going to be caring for the needs of their rabbi, their leader, on his sarcophagus. He's going to stink. Someone's going to have to go in there at some stage and transport the bones to the box. And so they want to anoint him. They want to put the spices on him and stuff like that so that his body is disposed of reverently and the work is doable for those who will come later and the odour is kept down. Their expectation is death. Their hope, what is their greatest hope at this time? That someone can move the stone. Their expectation is we will serve him in death. Their greatest hope is that someone will be able to move the stone for them because there's a big stone in front of where Jesus is in the cave, in the tomb. And so their hope is in strength to move the stone so that they might render service unto the one who is dead. That's their expectation in this Marvel movie. What do they get? But when they looked up, they saw the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. What they get is the presence of an unexpected man. And what they get is the absence of an expected man. Because what they expected was to come and find the corpse of Jesus. He's the expected man. But he's absent. The stone's been rolled away, and this other bloke, who knows who he is, he says, I know you're looking for Jesus, yet he's not here. The expected one is not present, he is absent. Well, this has an effect on these women. Trembling and bewildered, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. Now, I've got some repenting to do right now for bad sermon preaching many, many years ago. I used to read this passage, and I don't read it like this anymore. And I saw these women, and I thought, because this man that they didn't expect to see there, he says to them, go tell. And they don't go tell. And my understanding of this passage, and what I've taught others on this passage, but don't believe anymore, is that these women serve as a negative example for what Christians should do. That the idea is that they should have gone and told everyone that Jesus is risen. They should have been the first evangelists, and they should have been making this great truth known to all people. But they don't, because they were fearful. And then I start to unload onto them some of my own hang-ups. It's difficult to have conversations about religion and faith and stuff like that in our world. They're not in our world. They're 2,000 years ago, and they live in Israel, not in Australia. They're not dominated by a secular kind of movement or anything like that. I'm putting my hang-ups on them. The other thing is I'm simply not reading very well. And I'm sorry I haven't put it on the screen, but if you look in your Bible, you will see that the man says to them, not go and tell everyone, Not go tell the nations, none of that. He says, go and tell the disciples. Go and tell those who are already following Jesus. There are other parts of the scriptures where commands are given to share to those who don't yet believe, but this isn't one of those times. This time, the instruction is, go tell the disciples and Peter, the prince of disciples. Go tell them what you have just seen. And yet still the women are trembling and bewildered and, well, it says they say nothing to anyone because they're afraid. Of course, we're sitting here because obviously some gumption comes into them, and at some stage they tell others, and there are other parts of the Bible that tell us that indeed they do tell others. But at this stage, they don't. You've got to ask yourself, why? Well, we're told why, because they're afraid. Again, I don't think it's because they're scared to be sharing this new faith with unbelievers. No, they were told to tell the disciples. Is it because they're kind of, I don't know, timid, shy women? I doubt it. For these are the women who followed him from Galilee, who saw the teaching, saw the miracles, saw the healing, knew the compassion, saw the conflict, and they did not shy away. I don't see any negative reflection on their character. Nor do I read anymore that this is the story of timid evangelists. What happens here is they're trembling and bewildered at what they have beheld. Why are they afraid? I suspect the reason they're afraid is related to the man who is present, who is unexpected, and the man who is absent, who was expected. You see, what they have encountered is a tomb that is empty. And in encountering a tomb that is empty, they've encountered the definitive statement about Jesus. And that's something they've got to digest. Sometimes it's hard when things become definite. I don't know if you've ever experienced this or if you know what I'm talking about. And I've struggled this week to try and think of a way to explain this. And I simply can't. So forgive me as I ramble. Sometimes when things become very definite, to face them is hard. You can imagine, surely, if we be really empathetic, there's a part in these women that took some comfort that they followed their rabbi. He was put to death. He seemed to be the guy, and now he's dead. We loved him. He loved us. He did great things. There were some extreme things he said, and I guess we'll never quite know. And that space of, I guess we'll never quite know, relieves us of never quite deciding fully. We can say, he was great, never let us down, we walked with him, then he died, gee, that's sad, we'll be sad forever. I guess we'll never quite know. When they find a tomb that is empty, they find that Jesus has actually done the one sign that he said he would do. You see, in his time, people said, okay, big shot. You say you're the Son of God. You say you're God. Give us a sign. He said, one sign and one sign only. I'll go in the ground and I'll come back out. You see me go in the ground and come back out, you know I'm the real deal. But that's the only sign I'm giving. People seem to forget about this sign. But now Jesus has done the sign. He's not there. The man they expected to see is not there. He's absent. He is risen. And now these women have to face a very definitive reality. Our amazing teacher, who said some stuff we loved and went with, but also said some stuff that really blew our mind and stretched us, and we sort of thought, gee, if that's true, where does this go? Well, he's not just our amazing teacher anymore. He's our Messiah. He is the Son of God. He is God among us. He is the King of Kings, and all authority is his. And absolutely everything he said, even those 1%ers that we struggled to really definitively believe, well, who can question them now? I did a little bit of research. I had to write this down because I can't remember this statement about the word bewildered in the original language. Here's what my Greek commentary told me. It's a displacement of the mind from its ordinary state and self-possession. You know I wrote that down because I don't speak like that. The way I do speak is their minds are blown. They've now had to comprehend the enormity of who Jesus is and the definitive nature of who he is. It's not well, it looks like he was, but now he's dead, we'll never quite know. No, it's for real. And that freaks their minds out. But that's the man who is absent. There's another man who is present. And I think he freaks them out a little bit too. Let me show you. This might freak you out a little bit as well. So they come and they find a young man sitting on the right. Let's jump forward, thanks Ruth, and I'll show you up on the screen. As they entered the tomb, look at the bottom, Mark 16:5. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side. Now, that's got to be somewhat surprising, but they were kind of hoping someone might be there to help out with the stone anyway. What's freaky, and this is why the marvel moment counts, is these women who followed Jesus from Galilee all the way up close and personal until they were separated, saw another guy once. In fact, the last time they were up close and personal with Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, where his disciples were with him, where everyone deserted him. And at that time, a young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus. And when they seized him, he fled naked, leaving his garment behind. Here's what blows my mind away when I start to read Mark's Gospel carefully. The language of young man, used very sparingly in the New Testament, despite the fact that there are many who would qualify as a young man. In Mark's Gospel, guess how many times Mark uses the language of young man? Twice. Guess how many times Mark goes to the trouble of telling me about a man's age, and he's a specific young man, and what he's wearing? Twice. I start to see a connection. I don't know if it's the same young man, but what I see here is there is a young man in the Garden of Gethsemane where Jesus is being deserted by all and handed over that he would be crucified. A young man wearing nothing but a linen garment. Why do we need to know his outfit? We actually know more than just his outfit. This man is wearing a linen sindone. Sindones are normally made of wool, unless you're rich. Or, it's like an outer tunic. Or, if you're wearing a death robe. The linen sindone is often what someone might be buried in. It's a very important, expensive garment that people will be buried in. In fact, guess what Joseph from Arimathea laid Jesus in? A linen sindone. So here is this man, unusually clothed. He's wearing nothing but a death garment, an expensive death garment that Mark wants us to know about. Now remember, Mark writes the shortest of the four Gospels. So when he tells you something, pay attention. He doesn't waste his pen ink. A young man, I'll only name two of them, a young man wearing nothing but this death garment, this expensive death garment, was following Jesus. And when they seized him, even he deserted Jesus. He fled away naked, leaving his linen sindone behind. Naked, he runs away, almost in this shamed state, if you remember the language of naked from Genesis chapter 3. These words aren't there for nothing. Here is a man reduced to kind of his nudity and running around, and leaves the death garments for the one who's going to be put to death. And now the women come to the tomb, and what do they find? As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe. Again, you're like, come on, Shane, you're clutching at straws. It's not just any outfit he's wearing. The robe he's wearing is called a stole. Not just like the scarf that sometimes we call a stole. A stole, this language is used by Jesus when he speaks of Pharisees and people like that. He says, oh, they love to walk around wearing their flowing robes, their stoles, their garment of importance. This is the kind of thing that a priest or a king might wear. Again, we're pointed to a specific kind of person wearing a specific outfit. But wait, it goes further. Because not just is it something that a person of note would wear, this one, we need to know the colour of it. Do you know where else the scriptures speak about a white stole? One other place. In the book of Revelation. In Revelation, there is a picture of those who have been martyred, who have been restored, and gathered around the throne of God. And to each one was given a white stole. Why are the women so freaked out? Because as they come to this tomb, there is a definitive statement about Jesus. He is King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and there is nothing to contest anymore, and they must face that reality and make their decision. And not only is there a definitive statement about Jesus, there is a definitive statement about all who follow him. That in Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the one resurrected this Sunday, is absolute and perfect restoration for those who follow. Even if they made some mistakes a couple of days ago and ran away naked. And that is something big to process. You might think, no, it's not. It's good news, the puzzle's solved. That's Jesus, great, no problem. And he fixes all your issues. Slow down. Please pump the brakes and let's be gentle with one another. Whether you're a follower of Jesus or not a follower of Jesus, this is tricky stuff. To come to a point where there is a definitive, he is the one, calls you to make a definitive decision about who he is. And that's not always an easy thing to do. For him to declare of you, you are fully restored. And you think, surely I've got to add a little bit. And he goes, no. I know you ran away naked and shamed, but now I clothe you in white. You are fully restored. And you go, yeah, but some people still think I'm... And he says, no. You are fully restored. And you say, hey, I don't even feel that great about my stuff. And he says, no. You are fully restored. Christian or not, I think it's our nature to do okay at wanting to walk behind the crucified Saviour Jesus and see him carrying his cross, and walk behind the one to be crucified who carries a cross, and we feel the weight of sin and we call ourselves sinners and this whole thing. And that's a good space to visit. But we are not as good sometimes as we are walking with the crucified one as sitting with the glorified one. The Christian faith is not just a Friday faith, it's a Sunday faith too. It's the faith where the scriptures call us more than conquerors. It's the faith that means in our church culture, we will do less of calling ourselves sinners and do what the New Testament does, which is call ourselves saints. And I know in someone's belly right now you're going, oh, that's a bit strong. Saints, really, but we still sin. We're sinners. Yes, but the blood of Jesus declares you saint. What's more important, what you have done or what he has done? It's difficult to stomach, isn't it? Sometimes it blows your mind. Sometimes it causes a displacement of mind from its ordinary state and self-possession. Tonight I want to encourage everybody to embrace a displacement of the mind from its ordinary state and self-possession. To see the empty tomb, the definitive statement of God, this is the Messiah. And the definitive statement from the Messiah that for everyone who follows him, you are fully restored, and in the sight of God, you are perfect. You are a saint with nothing left to prove. And so I offer you this prayer. The prayer goes like this. He is risen, and I believe. He is Lord, and I am restored. Now, normally at this part of the talk, I lead you in praying that prayer. Tonight, I take a leaf out of Mark's book. I offer you that prayer. Go tell you, he is risen, and I believe. He is Lord, and I am restored. I hope you will go tell you, and you will go tell God. And I hope you won't be too fearful, and stay silent and say nothing.